Hello YouTube, Robin Hood Bricks here, and today we're going to be putting the second building up against Castle Rock, underneath the castle, right about here. Now, as some of you may have guessed, the basis for the second building against Castle Rock will be the other building from the Medieval Market Village set. That's set 10193 from 2009. Last time we used the inn building to make the Crown Inn, and this time we're going to use this one. I got both the buildings relatively cheaply on eBay, given that the set I bought was incomplete. It didn't have any of the minifigures. It even had a few pieces from the buildings missing, but they were easily replaced and the important sticker pieces and so on were there, so it wasn't too much of a job. Now this is a really nice old-fashioned building, and it really ties in with real life Nottingham as well. If we look at buildings that are genuinely opposite the genuine real life castle in Nottingham, like Seven House here, you'll see that they're very much of that sort of Tudor style with these sort of panels and so on, and the leaded windows and what have you. So yeah, this is a really good fit. But I'm going to make quite a few changes to it before integrating it against Castle Rock. Now let's look at a few of the features first. We've got this side being a stable with room for 2 horses, and it's got a lovely horse sign, which is very nice, which I'll probably keep, even though I'm not going to keep this building as a stable. The other half is a blacksmith's, and that's got a nice blacksmith's sign, and they're all metallic, so they're really nice. And I think I will keep that as a blacksmith's because it's got a lovely furnace in there, as you may be able to see. Better if I turn it around. You can see there's a lovely furnace and fire on that side, and there's also a sword being made, and it's being hit by this hammer, and this hammer is driven by a play feature, which is the water wheel. And basically the water wheel with this propeller piece hits the back end of this hammer piece, and the hammer is automated and is used to beat the sword being made. So that's quite true to life, that some blacksmiths would have used this sort of technique. So it's something I want to keep. And the really fortunate thing is with a water wheel is that I'm going to have a river, as you know, being the moat in between Castle Rock and Major Oak Hill. And that could be used to power this water wheel. So I'm very keen to keep that. This side, I think I'm going to take some advice from a couple of my viewers, which is to integrate some sort of souvenir shop. So I thought, rather than spoil the main castle with a modern shop, which would be quite out of keeping with a sort of medieval vibe, I thought I would have the souvenir shop down on ground level, and maybe even have the tours of the castle start from this location. So that's what I'm going to try and do on the other side of the ground floor, which is currently an empty stable. And then, much like the inn, the upstairs I'm going to leave as is, because from the front the windows are so sort of impenetrable that you can't really see in whatever you do. So I think it'd just be a complete waste of effort. So those are my rough plans. So I think the first thing I have to do before I can really integrate anything new is actually to mirror this set. Because at the moment I'm going to have it up against Castle Rock and the river's going to be here. So I definitely need the wheel on this side, and if the wheel's on this side, then the blacksmith's needs to be on this side, and I need all the space I can get, so I want the bigger side for the shop. So I'm going to have that on that side, which means I'm going to have to do the whole build mirrored. So let me get on with that. Okay, so I've mirrored both halves of the building, and I did it in 2 halves just so I can show you the interiors a bit more easily. I've also taken the opportunity of removing the hinge brick and hinge plate that made this fold back on itself and become a sort of mini modular. and I just did that because it's going to be pressed up against Castle Rock, so it won't need that. So this will give it a bit more strength, though it is a bit more flimsy at the moment with it being in two halves. So the first thing to do, very briefly, is look at the top half. There's some furniture in here that I'm just going to remove because it might be that I can use these pieces usefully elsewhere. There's a nice table with a cup and barrel and so on. And even better than that, there's actually two stickered tiles being paintings of a lady and a man, maybe the master and mistress of the house. And he's even got the Crown logo on, so I might use those in a museum or something like that later as paintings. No point having them closed up in here. Good, so I'll put those to one side. So that's the top done. We'll be able to stick that on when we're finished. And then the bottom half. So the Blacksmith Shop will have the sign flapping in the wind. It will also have the wheel in the river, which will be very good. We'll also have a sign for the stable, just to show it was the old stables. And then this is the side that I really want to convert. Now I've decided I want to use this as a souvenir shop on the blacksmith side, but I also thought I could use it as the ticket office for my sightseeing tours. Now, regular viewers will be familiar with my Sightseeing Tours Bus, which is the red open-top bus from the Capital City set, 60200. And this, instead of having sig figs from people on other channels, I have all the people from all the countries around the world represented by the nationalities on here. Which actually reminds me, it's a good opportunity to change the Australian figure, who we were representing using this sort of farmer, sort of country bumpkin type guy. But instead, I thought that this guy represented more like a rancher sort of type Australian instead. So we'll put him on. Anyway, this Sightseeing Tour Bus company needs a office, and in that set you get this piece hanging off a lamppost, which is basically two stickered pieces, a departures list, and also a sightseeing tours sign. And I thought I could incorporate that in the building, and I could have one arch being the sort of ticket window and the other one being the entrance to the shop, where you could buy sort of toy armor and swords and helmets and stuff before you started your tour of Brick Nottingham Castle. So let's get on with doing some of those amendments. So I think first of all, I have to remove the basket, don't need that. I have to sort of get at this central column. Oh, guys, on very firmly. Let's take that whole thing out. And I want to replace that with some different bricks, because I won't need these gates anymore for the stable. So I'm going to replace that column with that. And that modified brick piece is where I'm going to put my departures list. Then I've made a little ticket window, and I've got one of these semicircular pieces which will fit right underneath the arch, a 1x2 panel as a sort of ticket window, and you can see there's a sort of slot there for passing money and tickets underneath. It's pretty much the same as my croupier, or rather cashier's window in my casino, which if you haven't seen the Grand Emporium and Casino video, I can recommend that heartily. It's one of the earliest ones I've done. Let's just take that off to get this in. And that'll be recessed half a stud now, So it should look slightly set back. Okay, how does that look? I think that looks pretty good. It's in the same colour scheme as the top floor, of course, so I think that looks good. We can have a lady working at that stand, and I've chosen to use the Series 5 Zookeeper, and that's just because she's sort of wearing sort of an official looking sort of tunic top with a key on and so on, so I thought that she could work in here. And then on the back side, there's quite a few plates need holding together, so I thought I could use this, which would just be a sort of bench with a cash register on it. It's very hard to do this sort of thing leaning over a camera, but nonetheless, we'll persevere. There we go. So now she's got a counter as well. And then on this side, also take out a brick. And I've made a rack of weapons. Now these look like real lethal weapons, but they aren't. These are toy weapons for souvenirs and for children. And there's even a helmet there at the top on a sort of mannequin head. And I thought I'd put them in against this wall. I can just get enough space to do it without destroying it all, whilst also leaning over a camera. Let's see. There we go. Now it's a bit of a tight squeeze with the shop. Let me just put the helmet on there. Right. So hopefully you can see in there we've got a rack full of weapons. A lady there with her counter and till. And the ticket window. There's the weapons again from a different angle. And because I left one grabber in, I put that in so I could add another weapon. So I'll put a big battle axe there. And then I've also got another mannequin showing off a breastplate and a pointed helmet. And I just thought that could stand in there as well on the counter. So it's pretty crammed, but as you know, I like it very busy, so that's good. And then we just need to get this Sightseeing Tours sign on. And I've got another 1x1 modified brick to take that. So I've just got to find a suitable place for that, and it's probably going to be the expense of this stable sign, because we can't have too many signs and it's not really a stable anymore. So if I move the torch to that side, then we can have the Sightseeing Tours sign there. I don't really want two torches together, so I'll probably put the Blacksmith sign over here and the other torch over there. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. So there we've got a Souvenirs Shop and tour, Sightseeing Tour ticket office. Looking pretty good. Right, I'm not going to do the next bit on camera, which is just putting the roof back on, but it's going to look something like that. Excellent. Okay, so let's drop in our new building into position. I won't push it down too hard at the moment, but that's looking pretty good. So we can still see the prisoner ghost prisoner in the dungeon of the castle, sandwiched in between the two buildings. And you can see now the recess with the spare barrels in is just a little bit of extra detail, isn't really in the way of anything. And these signs are very visible from the main viewing angle, being the direction we're looking at roughly. And I think the way they're staggered, with this one being more forward and this one more back, actually opens up the area a bit and invites the eye in. So I like that very much as well. And you can't really see the person in the ticket office that well unless you stoop down, or many of the weapons, but you can see that there's definitely something going on, so that's really good. Now, one thing that I think that needs more work is the water wheel, because when this river is flowing, it's going to be lower than the street level by a brick or two, and therefore the wheel is pretty much going to be in mid-air. So I think when we do the river, we're probably going to have to look at a solution for lowering this wheel, because it's just going to be too high, or maybe even making the wheel bigger, because obviously if it's bigger, it will reach further down from its current position. So that will still need some playing with. But for today, I think the next thing is to tile in this area so it looks more in keeping with the rest. I don't know whether I'm going to add more cobbles or not. I might not, just for a bit of variety. I'm also going to put some minifigures in this area, and one of them is a tour guide. And for that, I'm going to use the Forest Maiden minifigure from Series 9, which is kind of a female Robin Hood, really, like Maid Marian in the movies or the mythology. Or maybe it's Mrs. Hood in minifigure form, who knows. So I really like her. That was partially a suggestion from a subscriber who suggested I use the Elf Maiden, but I already had this one, and this one kind of fits in slightly better with my theme, even though it's the same sort of idea. Now, one thing I want to do is to change the head. I do like the head for this minifigure, but I thought instead I'd add one with a sort of microphone attached, because if you go on one of these walking tours, which would start at an office like this and perhaps go up to the castle and look at all the old buildings, those people are often wearing a microphone just so their voice is a bit easier to hear. So I think that looks like a good mix of old and new, and is a old dressed tour guide with a microphone. So she can work for the Sightseeing Tours office and be somewhere around here collecting her guests for her next tour. Right, I'm going to get on with paving this and adding some more pedestrians. Okay, so I've just tiled this quite plainly. I've gone right up to the edge for now of where the river will be. It won't be like this because we'll have some sort of wall or something like that. Also, there's going to be a road bridge linking the road here with the road on the other side. So it will change somewhat, and I'll probably add a bit more street furniture as well in due course. But for now, I'm just going to add some minifigures. So I've got one here, tourist with a camera around her neck. She's just been checking out the store. I've got a girl with some money buying a ticket for the castle tour with the ticket window. Then I've got a man with a selfie stick. You see his image on there, so I thought we'd see it from that perspective. So that looked quite good. And he's perilously near the side of the road because he's not really looking what he's doing, because he's using his selfie stick. And then the tour guide that I showed you earlier, mic'd up, just waiting for enough people to start the next tour. And then a couple of people from the recent LEGO People Pack, the Outdoor Adventures 60202. One, the man with the baby on the baby carrier. And that's just fantastic, isn't it? Great fun. And he's got a ticket in his hand. So I thought I'll put him posing in front of the Blacksmith Shop, and then his wife taking a picture with this fantastic SLR camera is also from that set. Just put her there. Now these are a bit bendy at the moment, but they won't be when they're supported. They'll be supported from underneath as part of the build for the river, so we'll have to wait for that, which will probably be next video, I imagine. Anyway, so I think that's a good bit of life. So another good suggestion from a subscriber recently was to go handheld and to look at the new edition from a wider perspective. Apologies in advance for my wobbly hand movements. I don't have a very steady hand, unfortunately. There we go. There's the full castle and old town complex with the crown in and our tourist centre next to it. Major oak hill, eagle, eagle's nest, and Mario mural. There's the castle, the goody knight, and the two baddie knights on skeleton horses. Insides of the castle, the pub again, angry man, fierce dog, lots of beer, footballers, these new tourists, looking good I think, Sightseeing Tours sign, the pub sign, and the blacksmith sign, all going down this road together, so looking good. There's all of you lot on the tourist bus. And then I pan back for the marina, Market Square, and our row of modulars. And of course the harbour way over there. So, very good. Fitting in seamlessly. So in due course, I will have to fill in this gap as well. This isn't deliberate. And I'll probably have some facades along this wall as well. So it'll be completely built up and very dense. I'm also going to have some more buildings here in front of the tram line, which sort of continues this run of shops around the corner. Good. So, thank you very much for watching. Do remember to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe. And next time on Robin Hood Bricks, I think we'll be doing this river, because it looks a bit of a chasm at the moment. Maybe with a footbridge and a road bridge as well, don't know. And definitely lowering that water wheel so it actually could hit the water. Brilliant. See you next time.